Chinatown. The chief jewel of local tourist attractions shine glamorously in many cities' central district. Hints of Chinese culture glide its way inside the remnants of tenement housings, rendered skyscrapers, and countless traditional Chinese cuisines in the hidden alleys of modern Chinatowns. However, let me tell you one thing. The exotic architecture, vibrant red lanterns, and symbolic python archway that you see is not Chinese at all. Interestingly, these ambiguous traits were a deliberate script written by Chinese residents to control the narrative of Chinatown. Its evolution as a frontier is a story to be told interwoven with the resilience through racial prejudice to innovation. Now, let's take this back to the beginning. The initial migration of Chinese immigrants dates back to the 1840s, during the gold rush period in California, when they were introduced into various industries that require little language comprehension and specialized labor. Mostly from the Guangdong or Fujian province, the Chinese laborers were welcomed into the market because of the demands of cheap labor. Running away from continuous trends of violence and impoverishment in China caused by the First Opium War, the frontier of the Golden Island and sparkly streams of opportunities attracted many destitute Chinese who were satisfied with low incomes for their families abroad. However, most did not find success in their golden dream. They found themselves unable to afford to return home, stranded in a land that was strange and unwelcoming. Those who didn't find a fortune in mining work started to involve in agriculture jobs and factory works. Others constructed the California Central Railroad and the Central Pacific Railroad. Once this was in service, the East also opened up opportunities as settlements spread through the nation. Chinese-owned businesses also began to expand across the country, from shrimp fisheries to neighborhood laundries.
I am deeply impressed with the conviction that, in order to enhance the prosperity and to preserve the tranquility of the state, measures must be adopted to check this tide of Asiatic immigration and prevent the exportation by them of the precious metals which they dig up from a soil without charge.
By the 1870s to 1880s, about 25% of California's workers were Chinese men. The prosperer the Chinese, the more hatred they received from local Caucasians, mainly Irish immigrants due to undercut wages and job competition. Unsatisfied workers began to accuse the Chinese of stealing their employment opportunities and causing an economic crisis in the industry. In this political cartoon, the Missouri steam washer drives as Chinese holding hand-washed laundry supplies out of San Francisco, indicating their desire to end their source of income. Fear towards the quick population expansion led to the growing of racial discrimination and oppression.
Mob violence and lynchings were common in this corrupted city, with an increasing tension for Chinese residents who mostly lived in the Chinese Quarter along the street Calais de los Blacks. In an afternoon, a shootout occurred between two hoodlum groups due to personal disputes. Responding to the shootout, one police officer was wounded, and a local former saloon owner, Robert Thompson, who attempted to assist the police officer, died in this incident. Rumors spread. The crowd was infuriated when the word of his death rapidly passed. A mob of over 500 people sabotaged through the Chinese Quarter, killing every Chinese they saw at sight. The next morning, a total of 21 Chinese bodies were laid out in front of the jail yard, with 10 being hung the day before. 10% of the LA Chinese population was massacred.
It didn't just happen in LA. Chinese encountered countless racial hatred from Caucasians, with a total of over 200 incidents in California from 1849 to 1906. Soon, these local anti-Chinese oppressions developed into a series of federal discriminatory acts. The Page Act of 1875 restricted the undesirables into the country and paved way for Chinese exclusion. Circumstances became even more despotic a few years later. In 1879, the state attempted to prohibit the hiring of coolies. The most famous act, The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 marked the first time that a specific ethnicity was targeted for unfair treatment. They were prohibited from immigration and also entering the U.S. unless they were a merchant or certified worker. However, Chinese immigrants found a remedy out of this involuntary segregation.
势单力薄的、很没有反抗的余地的时候，他们要团结起来，有很多种族歧视，而且本身这个华人世界本身的歧视，你强我弱的时候，他们就受到欺负。
The collective cultural background of Chinese residents, also known as the we feeling, was the crucial reason to keep them as a unified body in the frontier of survival in a foreign land. The strong feelings of abnormality and loneliness increased the belonging feeling that Chinese felt in one another.
我们团结起来，互动为一，基本上干的就是每一年的中国新年都举办，这个春宴，我们叫春宴，对，而且呢，他们做的越，人多，那个声势越壮大，而且还有本地这个政治人物呀。社会人达他们都来参与，那就很开心的一个事，也是一个中国人一个代表性的华号。
Chinese immigrants revolted against the antagonistic environment by displaying their unique Chinese identity as they gained the courage to combat against those dissonant voices. On April 18th, 1906, San Francisco Chinatown was obstructed into pieces by immense cracks and shatters deep in the ground. The earthquake of 1906 may seem like a catastrophe for the newly constructed community, but on the contrary, the eruption brought a frontier for a slim chance to thrive. Chinese utilized Chinatown's distinct physical characteristics to their advantage when an opportunity came, which is drawing people into the mysterious culture. Realizing a potential market and drastic economic growth from tourism, Chinese immigrants utilized so-called Chinese characteristics specifically for Caucasians' appeal. One of the most apparent changes was the architecture of Chinatown. Ironically, the architectures, which were actually built by Caucasian architects, had little to do with actual Chinese communities. In order to receive more recognition and profit, they constructed many Chinatown's components under Western beauty standards in order to promote the Oriental beauty of Chinese culture and attract non-Chinese tourists at the same time. It wasn't Chinese, but it worked. Merchants knew how to manipulate tourists' thirst for authenticity to its fullest potential. A new tourism industry derived from the once thought heaven of opium or prostitution kingdom. The invention of chop suey, an American Chinese dish specifically developed to please the American appetite, rumored to be made from leftovers. Being nowhere close to traditional Cantonese cuisine, its mere purpose was to attract Caucasians into Chinese restaurants. It did work its magic. Its popularity rose exponentially amongst local Caucasians. Chop suey became the third most frequent occurring word from 1910 to 1919. Its success also boosted the numbers of Chinese restaurants in the nation, rewriting the reputation of Chinese culture through the gradual integration into American society. When that urge of survival becomes almost an instinct, Chinatown shape-shifts into different frontiers in the form of an Oriental pearl throughout North America. The frontier of Chinatown evolves in different aspects, from an alien to a writer who narrates its own story. As it adapted to the local environment and preferences, it sought common grounds with the American society while preserving traditional Asiatic traits. It wasn't just Chinese culture in a foreign country. It was the pioneering creation of American and Chinese culture that illuminated and aided the Chinese immigrants through all the racial hatred, prejudice, and commotion. From oppression and struggle, rejection and accommodation, to seeking common ground and preserving differences, all these histories are interwoven in the evolution of this peculiar geographical square, and together they have contributed to the development and prosperity of Chinatown. What is the frontier now? that is a mystery yet to find out.